Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is March 7th, 2021. In this report, we'll take a look at what's happening in the zodiac, where the planets are, where they are going, and what to expect from the developing energy patterns. In particular, we are looking at all the action happening in Aquarius during March 2021. First up, we have the situation with Venus in Aquarius. Venus entered this sign on February 20th. It's the planet of values in the sign of the humanitarian. Aquarius is the community idealist. It's the planet of romance in the sign of group actions, the planet of guidance in the sign of social revolution. So, this is a good combination for the liberal left, those who want to make changes in the social fabric that will benefit everyone. As Venus progresses further into Aquarius, it comes under the influence of Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusions, which has been transiting in this sign since 2009. When performing in a positive manner, Neptune is imaginative, creative, and idealistic. Aquarius is the sign of social idealism. This energy pattern is one of the things over the past decade that has enabled a more open-minded expansion of civil liberties to formerly marginalized groups within society. But the planet of romance combined with the planet of fantasy can manifest as an irrational infatuation, either with a person or with something that you greatly desire. Venus is the planet of value. Neptune is the planet of deception. This would not be a good time for making an important purchase. And note that Venus becomes exactly conjunct Neptune on March 13th, just in time for beginning the implementation of the federal government's COVID relief bill. That's the planet of finance, money, conjunct the planet of fantasy and confusion. Talk about great timing. While transiting in Aquarius, Venus has become square to the nodes, Rahu and Ketu. In other words, it will pass through the midpoint of the Rahu-Ketu axis. Any planet that transits in this area of the zodiac is weakened by the stressful aspect pattern with the eclipse points. Venus is the planet of guidance. For instance, there's a lot of stress over guidance regarding the COVID vaccine. The exact square is on Tuesday, March 9th. Venus gets away from all this confusion when it changes signs and enters Pisces on March 16th. I'll have a full report on Venus in Pisces in next week's report. Mercury is also transiting in Aquarius during March. Mercury leaves Capricorn and enters Aquarius on March 10th. Since Aquarius is one of the air signs, in other words, one of the intellect signs, Mercury, the planet of rational thinking, likes being in Aquarius. Mercury's significations of study and learning do well in a sign that likes acquiring and retaining knowledge. Aquarius is the social humanitarian. It tends towards more progressive ideas, and since Mercury is the planet of the media, we should see the liberal media get a boost from this transit. But Mercury will encounter some problems while it transits through Aquarius. The first problem will be a square aspect with Mars. The planet of news and media will be having an inimical relationship with the planet of conflict and controversy. So, the liberal media, or actually all media reporting, will be getting pretty heated. The exact aspect is on March 23rd. Practically at the same time, Mercury will also transit through the midpoint of the Rahu-Ketu axis, just like Venus did a couple of weeks before. So Mercury's significations will definitely be under stress during the last week of March. And that's not all. Right after the interactions with Mars and the nodes, Mercury will next come under the influence of Neptune. The planet of rational thinking and making decisions, combined with the planet of fantasy and illusions, results in delusional thinking and irrational decisions. It could be argued that Mercury, as the planet of ideas and reasons, combined with Neptune, planet of the imagination, is good for creative thinking. But far worse would be the signification of Neptune as the planet of deception, combined with Mercury, planet of making decisions. Therefore, best to save that important decision until Mercury gets away from Neptune. In other words, after it changes signs and enters Pisces on March 31st. In the Vedic birth chart of the USA, Aquarius is the sign in the third house. For a country's chart, the third house is the house of commerce within the country and the infrastructure necessary to provide transportation within the country. Of course, one of the big things that needs to be addressed is the deferred maintenance of the nation's roads and bridges. The transmission of information is another function of the third house of a country. In other words, newspapers, magazines, and TV, and the news. The third house is the house of neighbors, in this case, Canada, Mexico. So, things like all the desperate people coming up from the south. With all this Aquarius stuff happening, we can expect a lot of events during March that manifest all sorts of significations for the USA. And that's not all. Even after Mercury and Venus get out of Aquarius, Jupiter will be arriving in early April. More about that in an upcoming report. Okay, that's all the time I have for this week. Next week, we'll be looking at the transit of Venus in Pisces and what it signifies for each of the rising sign charts. So, until then,